We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Justice League vs. Godzilla vs. Kong, Issue 1. This is a 2023 miniseries from DC Comics, written by Brian Buccellato, art by Christian Duce, colors by Luis Guerrero, Richard Starkings and Comiccraft's Jimmy Betancourt did the letters. DC Comics editor was Ben Abernathy, Legendary Comics editor Robert Napton. I have the main cover by Drew Johnson and Romulo Fajardo Jr. And the cover's okay. It's a wraparound, so it's not actually just Godzilla and the Batwing. There's also Kong in the background. We don't see a whole lot of the monsters in this issue. So Superman's about to propose to Lois at the top of the Daily Planet when Godzilla appears, and then we jump back in time because why would we want to continue with that hook? Green Lantern and the Flash are talking, and then Supergirl shows up and there's more talking, and then we see Titano, which is DC Comics pastiche for King Kong, and they haven't used him in a while, but that's sort of more talking, a lot more talking, this time with Superman, the Flash, and Green Lantern. And then Wonder Woman shows up for some more talking. They're talking about Superman's relationship with Lois this whole time because I need 8 pages of that. And then we jump over to the Legion of Doom where we get some more talking. This time they're going to try and do something about the Justice League, and they fly to an old Fortress of Solitude that looks a lot like the 1978 movie Fortress of Solitude, and they zap Kellex before breaking in to cause havoc and steal stuff. Batman shows up to talk to Superman about getting married because more talking was needed. Meanwhile, a big portion of the Justice League shows up at the Fortress of Solitude to face off with the Legion. Toyman does something really stupid and screws up Luthor's plan and sends them to Skull Island. And it looks like this is an alternate Earth and not the main Earth of DC. And they come across King Kong, and Toyman gets an idea, but nobody seems to want to listen to him. But he had managed to steal an object from the Fortress of Solitude, and that object is going to bring Kong and Godzilla onto the main DC playing field. Now, I don't know why this is a 6-issue miniseries. That's what it's advertised as, and I think that's ludicrous. Unless they're going to get some of the powerhouses out of the DCU, Firestorm, Superman, and Captain Atom could all easily take down a giant monkey and a giant reptile. Even with the atomic breath from Godzilla, all 3 of them could easily wipe the floor with these monsters. But that's not even my issue with this. I'm willing to suspend disbelief that maybe Godzilla can somehow beat up Superman, and it's an interesting premise, and there's also, of course, the Legion of Doom to deal with, but this issue was a lot of not giant monsters running around breaking stuff. It was a lot of babbling about Clark and Lois getting possibly engaged. There was way too much time devoted to that, which is also one of my complaints with the Godzilla movie franchise, is there's way too many humans in it and not enough giant monster fights. And unfortunately, this suffered from that. And at a staggering $5, you do get a lot of pages in here, but there's a lot of fluff in here. This is incredibly decompressed storytelling that did not rely enough on the giant monsters and relied way too much on talking about somebody's relationship. It was like Hallmark wrote a monster movie. There's monsters there, they're in it, sort of, for a few pages, but it's mostly about their feelings and their relationships. Sure, they fight Titano for like a page. Oh, sure, they're at the Fortress of Solitude for a few pages, but don't worry, Lois is sitting at her computer for a couple pages too, and there's a lot of standing around in the woods, and then there's a lot of sitting around, sometimes at the top of the Daily Planet, sometimes at the Watchtower. I was kind of bored with this, and I should not be bored with a giant monster book. At most, this should have been 2 issues and had it mostly fighting and combat. That's what I want to see with Godzilla and King Kong. A lot of monster fights, fighting other monsters, fighting giant mechs, whatever. Just giant monster fights. Instead, this was a bunch of navel gazing with the veneer of monsters in it. I saw more action of Titano than I did with Godzilla. Godzilla's barely in the book. At least Kong sorta has a brief fight that's like 2 panels feels long. This was kind of a ripoff at $5. There was just way too much wasted space. The art's not bad. The coloring's pretty good. There is some lighting issues where it's a little too soft tones and not really adding anything to it. There were just these soft sunset tones that weren't needed on Skull Island and the whole scene with Lois and Clark, which was way too long. But the monsters look pretty good. It was just too much padding, not enough monster fights. So unless that picks up, this miniseries is not going to be something I'm paying for. So I'm not going to recommend this unless you can get it out of a dollar bin, or you're going to get it really cheap in trade, because there's just too much babbling and not enough giant monsters to satisfy any monster fan. This is bad as a comic book. It's really bad as a monster comic book. So massive letdown on this book for me, and I'm not going to recommend it. That's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to various support methods, and as always, we hope to see you on the next one.